Hello friends and welcome to Parks Crafty Creations. I'm your host, Brian Parks. If you've been thinking about upgrading your sewing machine in the hopes that it might improve your sewing, I want to challenge that idea. Because while I absolutely love a good sewing machine, I don't actually think it's necessarily the first thing that most sewers should jump to upgrade. In fact, if your current machine is sewing a good consistent stitch, I can think of several things I'd look into before investing in a new one. And I honestly believe these upgrades can make a far bigger difference in your sewing than a brand new machine ever could. Before we jump in, if you enjoy this content, be sure to give us a like down below, or even a hype if you'd be so kind. It really does help out the channel. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell icon so you'll never miss out whenever a new video drops. And hey, if you love what we do here, don't forget to share us with your friends. Alright, that's enough of the housekeeping. Let's get started. Let's start with something that almost nobody gets excited about, but everyone benefits from. Better lighting. If you've ever struggled to sew dark thread on dark fabric, leaned over your machine trying to see exactly where your stitches were landing, or found yourself squinting while trying to unpick a seam, your sewing machine might not actually be the problem. Your lighting might be. And when you're choosing lighting for your sewing space, there are three things that you need to look for. The first is the most obvious: brightness, which is measured in lumens. Don't just look at wattage. Wattage tells you how much energy the light uses. Lumens tell you how much light you're actually getting. You want enough light to clearly see your fabric and stitching without straining your eyes. And that doesn't necessarily mean flooding the entire room with one ridiculously bright fixture. Good overhead lighting combined with a bright task light over your sewing or cutting area can make a huge difference. For a task light, you'll want something in the neighborhood of around 1,000 to 2,000 lumens. If you're lighting an entire room, you'll need significantly more, and you'll likely be coming from multiple lighting sources to get where you need to be. The second thing to consider is color temperature. For sewing, I prefer lighting in the daylight range, somewhere around 5,000 to 6,500 Kelvin. Warmer lights can give everything a yellow or orange cast, which is great for making your living room feel cozy, but not so great when you're trying to determine whether two fabrics actually match. The third thing to look for is CRI, or Color Rendering Index. CRI basically tells you how accurately a light allows you to see colors compared with natural light. For sewing and crafting, I'd look for a CRI of at least 90 and ideally 95 or higher if accurate color matching is important to you. You don't want to pick what looks like the perfect thread under your sewing room lights, only to walk outside and discover that it doesn't match nearly as well as you thought. As far as brands go, OttLight is probably the best known name in sewing and craft lighting. Daylight Company also makes lighting specifically for sewing, quilting, needlework, and other detail-oriented crafts. And if you're looking for something that can illuminate a larger work surface, BenQ makes some very nice wide desk lamps, although they're definitely more of a premium option. You certainly don't have to go buy one of these brands. The specifications are more important than the name on the box. Look for plenty of lumens, a daylight color temperature, and a CRI of 90 or better. Get those three things right, and you'll see your stitches more clearly, see your fabric colors more accurately, and put a lot less strain on your eyes. Next up is something I use on literally every project: a quality iron. And notice I said quality, not necessarily expensive. Now, I know I'm going to get hammered about this down in the comments, but hear me out. I don't need an iron with 100 different features. What I need is an iron that heats consistently, holds its temperature well, produces reliable steam when I need it, and feels dependable every time I pick it up. This is one area where I'd caution against getting too caught up in gimmicks or novelty features. Case in point, the Aliso irons, for example, have that automatic lift system where little feet pop out of the bottom when you let go of the handle. And I'll admit, it's really cool. The first dozen times you see it work, you're probably going to think, this is amazing. And I know there's plenty of people out there that love them. And if you have one and it makes you happy, great. I'm not trying to bash on them. But here's the question I ask. Does that feature actually make the iron better at being, well, an iron? Personally, I've known several people who've owned those irons, and eventually they all had problems with that lifting mechanism. Some have ended up replacing the iron, and sometimes more than once. That doesn't mean every Aliso is going to break though, or that the brand is bad. I've got one of their mini irons without the little pop-up feet, and I love it. But when you're spending hundreds of dollars on an iron, reliability should be one of the biggest things you're paying for, not a gimmick. And yes, I'm sorry, but that is a gimmick. I'd rather spend my money on the features that actually affect performance. Does it heat evenly across the sole plate? Does it maintain a consistent temperature? Does it recover its heat quickly? Does it produce good, consistent steam? Is the sole plate smooth and durable? Is it comfortable to use? And is it built well enough that I'm hopefully going to be using it for several years from now? Nobody is going to stand around your sewing room saying, wow, look how consistently that thermostat maintains 400 degrees. But those are the features that actually matter every time you use it. Novelty features are fun when they're new. The novelty wears off pretty quickly if that feature stops working and you realize you paid 2 or 3 times more for something that didn't actually make the iron press your fabric any better. So, don't necessarily look for the iron with the longest feature list. Look for a solid, dependable iron that does the basic things exceptionally well. It should just work. A great iron will only get you so far if you're using it on a terrible ironing surface. Fortunately, this is an upgrade that doesn't have to cost much money. One of the biggest improvements you can make is simply giving yourself more usable pressing space. Traditional ironing boards are usually long and narrow because they're designed primarily for ironing clothes. That's fine for wearable garments, but it can be frustrating when you're pressing yardage, quilt blocks, pattern pieces, or larger sections of a project. A larger rectangular surface gives you room to lay your project out properly without constantly repositioning everything. And you don't need an expensive professional pressing table. You can make your own using a sturdy board, cotton batting, and cotton fabric. You can make it whatever size works best for your space, and you can even make one that sits on top of an existing table and gets put away when you're finished. In fact, I have an entire video showing you how I made my own custom ironing boards and their covers. So if you'd like to upgrade your pressing station without spending a fortune, I'll link that video for you. In fact, I have one of them sitting behind me right now. There are also some inexpensive tools that can make your pressing station much more useful. A tailor's clapper can help get really crisp seams and edges. A pressing cloth can protect delicate fabrics and prevent shine. A sleeve board or seam roll makes smaller areas and curved seams much easier to press. And depending on the type of sewing you do, a wool pressing mat can also be a useful addition. You don't need all of these things. Look at where your frustration is. If you need more room, improve your pressing surface. If you're struggling with crisp seams, try a clapper. If you sew a lot of garments and struggle with sleeves and curves, maybe a sleeve board or a seam roll is the better investment. That's what I mean by upgrading your sewing setup. Identify the problem that's really holding you back and fix that. Next, let's talk about something that can completely change how much you enjoy sewing. getting your cutting surface up to the right height. If you're currently cutting fabric on the floor or spending hours hunched over your dining room table, please do your back a favor and look for a better solution. And you can spend as little or as much as you want here. It can be something as simple as an inexpensive folding table with adjustable legs, like the one I have right behind me here. They're not fancy, they don't have motors or built-in storage, and they weren't designed specifically for sewing. But the legs extend, allowing me to raise the work surface to a much more comfortable height. And that's the feature that actually matters. At the other end of the spectrum, you can buy beautiful, dedicated cutting tables with built-in storage and electronically controlled height adjustment that raises and lowers the entire table with the push of a button. You can easily spend hundreds or even thousands of dollars if that's something you want to invest in. But there are solutions at practically every price point. The important thing is getting your work off the floor and up to a height where you aren't spending the entire cutting process hunched over. Cutting out a complicated project can take a long time. If you're bent over the entire time, eventually your back, your shoulders, and your neck are going to let you know about it. And when you're uncomfortable, you tend to rush. A properly positioned cutting surface lets you stand more naturally, move around your project more easily, and take your time. And there's one other issue this solves that nobody seems to mention. Getting your project off the floor and into a position where you can cut it properly, especially if you're using a rotary cutter, is an essential step for safety. This was something that was addressed in my very first class when I was in college for art and design. And I can share some real horror stories about what happens when you slip with a blade. It's not pretty, and I don't want anything like that to happen to any of you. So please, if you take nothing else from this video and you're working on the floor or working in a position that's unsafe, please, from the bottom of my heart, take some time and reconsider that there must be a better way. If you sew in a shared space, an adjustable folding table can be set up when you need it and folded away afterwards. If you have a dedicated sewing studio, maybe a large cutting island or an electronically adjustable table makes sense for you. The solution will look different depending on your space and your budget. What matters is that it works for you. Now that we've gotten ourselves off the floor and we're cutting at a comfortable height, let's talk about the tools we're actually using. You don't need every ruler ever invented. You don't need a pair of designer scissors that cost more than your first sewing machine. But you do need cutting tools that work well. For me, that means a good rotary cutter, a dependable pair of fabric shears, and most importantly, keeping them sharp. Much like how cutting in an improper position can lead to slip-ups and injuries, a dull cutting tool doesn't just make cutting frustrating and less accurate, it can also make it less safe. When a blade gets dull, our natural reaction is to compensate by pushing harder. If you're putting a lot of pressure on your rotary cutter or forcing your scissors through material they should be cutting easily, you have less control over the tool. And when you're putting that much force behind a sharp object, a slip can turn into an accident and a trip to the emergency room very quickly. If you're pressing harder, making multiple passes over the same area, or fighting your scissors for a clean cut, it's probably time to sharpen or replace the blade. And a dull rotary blade is one of those things you don't realize you've been fighting until you replace it. You put in a fresh blade, make that first cut, and suddenly think, oh, that's what this thing is supposed to feel like. I've mentioned these before, but personally, I think titanium-coated rotary cutter blades are worth the extra money. They're designed to stay sharp longer and resist wear. And since my rotary cutter gets used constantly, that's an upgrade I'm willing to spend a little more on. The same principle applies to fabric shears. You don't need the most expensive scissors on the market. You want a pair that's comfortable in your hand, cuts cleanly all the way to the tip, and can be sharpened when they eventually become dull. So, those are the first 5 things I'd upgrade before I started shopping for a new sewing machine. And you may have noticed that we haven't actually changed anything about the sewing machine itself yet. That's intentional, because in the next video, we're going to get a little closer to the machine and talk about the things your machine uses, including your needles, your thread, and your presser feet, before we finish with a couple of upgrades that can make your entire sewing experience better. And again, I'm not saying you should never buy a better sewing machine. There absolutely comes a point where you may outgrow your current machine or need features it simply can't provide. I'm just saying that if your current machine is already giving you what you really need and really isn't holding you back in any way that you can pinpoint, I would look at everything surrounding it before assuming the machine is the problem. Now, I want to hear from you. If someone handed you $2,000 to improve your sewing setup, but you weren't allowed to spend it on a new sewing machine, where would you spend that money in your sewing room? Let me know down in the comments. I have a feeling we're going to get some really interesting answers. And if you enjoyed today's video, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up or even a hype if you'd be so kind. It really does help out the channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell icon so you'll never miss out whenever a new video drops. And if you love what we do here, don't forget to share us with your friends. Thanks so much for joining me today. I've been Brian Parks for Parks Crafty Creations. Happy sewing, and we'll see you next time.